If you're curious about Islam's stance on alcohol, then you're in the right place. Let's dive in. In Islam, alcohol is considered harmful. The Prophet Muhammad taught us to avoid it because it affects our minds and bodies. It's all about maintaining a healthy and clear state of being. So for Muslims, steering clear of alcohol is a way to stay true to their faith and live a balanced life. Simple and meaningful. Volume 7, Book 69, number 481, narrated by Ibn Umar, Allah's apostle, said, "Whoever drinks alcoholic drinks in the world and does not repent before dying will be deprived of it in the hereafter." Volume 7, Book 69, number 482, narrated by Abu Huraira. On the night Allah's apostle was taken on a night journey, Miraj, 2 cups, one containing wine and the other milk, were presented to him at Jerusalem. He looked at it and took the cup of milk. Gabriel said, "Praise be to Allah who guided you to Al-Fitra, the right path. If you had taken the cup of wine, your nation would have gone astray." Volume 7, Book 69, number 483, narrated by Anas. I heard from Allah's apostle a narration which none other than I will narrate to you. The Prophet said, "From among the portents of the hour are the following. General ignorance, in religious affairs, will prevail. Religious knowledge will decrease. Illegal sexual intercourse will prevail. Alcoholic drinks will be drunk, in abundance. Men will decrease, and women will increase so much so that for every 50 women there will be 1 man to look after them." Volume 7, Book 69, number 484, narrated by Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, "An adulterer, at the time he is committing illegal sexual intercourse, is not a believer, and a person, at the time of drinking an alcoholic drink, is not a believer, and a thief, at the time of stealing, is not a believer." Ibn Shihab said, Abdul Malik bin Abi Bakr bin Abdurrahman bin al-Harith bin Hisham told me that Abu Bakr used to narrate that narration to him on the authority of Abu Huraira. He used to add that Abu Bakr used to mention, besides the above cases, "And he who robs, takes illegally something by force, while the people are looking at him, is not a believer at the time he is robbing, taking." Volume 7, Book 69, number 485, narrated by Ibn Umar. Alcoholic drinks were prohibited, by Allah, when there was nothing of it, special kind of wine, in Medina. Volume 7, Book 69, number 486, narrated by Anas. Alcoholic drinks were prohibited at the time we could rarely find wine made from grapes in Medina, for most of our liquors were made from unripe and ripe dates. Volume 7, Book 69, number 487, narrated by Ibn Umar stood up on the pulpit and said, "Now then, prohibition of alcoholic drinks have been revealed, and these drinks are prepared from 5 things, grapes, dates, honey, wheat or barley, and an alcoholic drink is that disturbs the mind." Volume 7, Book 69, number 488, narrated by Anas bin Malik. I was serving Abu Ubaidah, Abu Talha, and Ubay bin Ka'b with a drink prepared from ripe and unripe dates. Then somebody came to them and said, "Alcoholic drinks have been prohibited." On hearing that, Abu Talha said, "Get up, O Anas, and pour, throw it out." So I poured, threw it out. Volume 7, Book 69, number 489, narrated by Anas. While I was waiting on my uncles and serving them with wine prepared from dates, and I was the youngest of them, it was said, "Alcoholic drinks have been prohibited." So they said to me, "Throw it away." So I threw it away. Volume 7, Book 69, number 490, narrated by Anas bin Malik. Alcoholic drinks were prohibited. At that time, these drinks used to be prepared from unripe and ripe dates. Volume 7, Book 69, number 491, narrated by Aisha, Allah's apostle, was asked about albit. He said, "All drinks that intoxicate are unlawful to drink." Volume 7, Book 69, number 492, narrated by Aisha, Allah's apostle, was asked about albit, a liquor prepared from honey which the Yemenites used to drink. Allah's apostle said, "All drinks that intoxicate are unlawful to drink." Volume 7, Book 69, number 492, narrated by Aisha, Allah's apostle, was asked about albit, a liquor prepared from honey which the Yemenites used to drink. Allah's apostle said, "All drinks that intoxicate are unlawful to drink." Volume 7, Book 69, number 492, narrated by Anas bin Malik. Allah's apostle said, "Do not make drinks in ad-duba nor in al-muzafat." Abu Huraira used to add to them al-hantam and an-nakir. Volume 7, Book 69, number 493, narrated by Ibn Umar delivered a sermon on the pulpit of Allah's apostle saying, Alcoholic drinks were prohibited by divine order, and these drinks used to be prepared from 5 things, that is, grapes, dates, wheat, barley, and honey. Alcoholic drink is that disturbs the mind. Umar added, I wish Allah's apostle had not left us before he had given us definite verdicts concerning 3 matters, that is, how much a grandfather may inherit of his grandson, the inheritance of al-kalala, the deceased person among whose heirs there is no father or son, and various types of riba. 1. Usury. Volume 7, Book 69, number 494, narrated by Umar. Alcoholic drinks are prepared from 5 things, that is, raisins, dates, wheat, barley, and honey. Volume 7, Book 69, number 494, narrated by Abu Amir or Abu Malik al-Ash'ari, that he heard the Prophet saying, From among my followers there will be some people who will consider illegal sexual intercourse, the wearing of silk, the drinking of alcoholic drinks, and the use of musical instruments as lawful. And there will be some people who will stay near the side of a mountain, and in the evening their shepherd will come to them with their sheep and ask them for something, but they will say to him, Return to us tomorrow. Allah will destroy them during the night and will let the mountain fall on them, and he will transform the rest of them into monkeys and pigs, and they will remain so till the day of resurrection. Volume 7, Book 69, number 495, narrated by Sal Abu Usaid. As-Sa'idi came and invited Allah's apostle on the occasion of his wedding. His wife, who was the bride, was serving them. Do you know what drink she prepared for Allah's apostle? She had soaked some dates in water in a tur overnight. Volume 7, Book 69, number 496, narrated by Jabir. Allah's apostle forbade the use of certain containers, but the Ansar said, We cannot dispense with them. The Prophet then said, If so, then use them. Volume 7, Book 69, number 497, narrated by Abdullah bin Amr, when the Prophet forbade the use of certain containers that were used for preparing alcoholic drinks. Somebody said to the Prophet, But not all the people can find skins, so he allowed them to use clay jars not covered with pitch. Volume 7, Book 69, number 498, narrated by Ali. The Prophet forbade the use of ad-duba and al-muzaffat. Volume 7, Book 69, number 199, narrated by Al-Amash, as above 494. Volume 7, Book 69, number 500, narrated by Ibrahim. I asked Al-Aswad, Did you ask Aisha, mother of the believers, about the containers in which it is disliked to prepare non-alcoholic drinks? He said, Yes. I said to her, O mother of the believers, what containers did the Prophet forbid to use for preparing non-alcoholic drinks? She said, The Prophet forbade us, his family, to prepare non-alcoholic drinks in ad-duba and al-muzaffat. I asked, Didn't you mention al-jar and al-hantam? She said, I tell what I have heard. Shall I tell you what I have not heard? Volume 7, Book 69, number 501, narrated by Ash-Shaybani. I heard Abdullah bin Abi Awfa saying, The Prophet forbade the use of green jars. I said, Shall we drink out of white jars? He said, No. Volume 7, Book 69, number 505, narrated by Anas, while I was serving Abu Talha, Abu Dujana, and Abu Suhail bin Al-Baida with a drink made from a mixture of unripe and ripe dates, alcoholic drinks, were made unlawful, whereupon I threw it away, and I was their butler and the youngest of them, and we used to consider that drink as an alcoholic drink in those days. Volume 7, Book 69, number 506, narrated by Jabir. The Prophet forbade the drinking of alcoholic drinks prepared from raisins, dates, unripe dates, and fresh ripe dates. Volume 7, Book 69, number 507, narrated by Abu Qatada. The Prophet forbade the mixing of ripe and unripe dates, and also the mixing of dates and raisins, for preparing a syrup, but the syrup of each kind of fruit should be prepared separately. One may have such drinks as long as it is fresh. Volume 7, Book 69, number 508, narrated by Abu Huraira. Allah's apostle was presented a bowl of milk and a bowl of wine on the night he was taken on a journey, Al-Miraj. Volume 7, Book 69, number 509, narrated by al-Fadl. The people doubted whether Allah's apostle was fasting or the day of Arafat or not, so I sent a cup containing milk to him and he drank it. Volume 7, Book 69, number 510, narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. Abu Humaid brought a cup of mix from a place called Al-Naki. Allah's apostle said to him, Will you not cover it even by placing a stick across it? Volume 7, Book 69, number 511, narrated by Jabir Abu Humaid, an Ansari man, came from Anaki carrying a cup of milk to the Prophet. The Prophet said, "Will you not cover it even by placing a stick across it?" Volume 7, Book 69, number 512, narrated by Al-Bara. The Prophet came from Mecca with Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr said, "We passed by a shepherd, and at that time Allah's apostle was thirsty. I milked a little milk in a bowl, and Allah's apostle drank till I was pleased. Suraka bin Jushum came to us riding a horse, chasing us. The Prophet invoked evil upon him, whereupon Suraka requested him not to invoke evil upon him, in which case he would go back. The Prophet agreed." Volume 7, Book 69, number 513, narrated by Abu Huraira. Allah's apostle said, "The best object of charity is a she-camel which has newly given birth and gives plenty of milk, or a she-goat which gives plenty of milk, and is given to somebody to utilize its milk by milking one bowl in the morning and one in the evening." Volume 7, Book 69, number 514, narrated by Ibn Abbas. Allah's apostle drank milk and then rinsed his mouth and said, "It contains fat." The Prophet added, "I was raised to the lot tree and saw 4 rivers, 2 of which were coming out and 2 going in. Those which were coming out were the Nile and the Euphrates, and those which were going in were 2 rivers in paradise. Then I was given 3 bowls, one containing milk, and another containing honey, and a third containing wine. I took the bowl containing milk and drank it. It was said to me, 'You and your followers will be on the right path of Islam.'" Volume 7, Book 69, number 515, narrated by Anas bin Malik. Abu Talha had the largest number of date palms from amongst the Ansars of Medina. The dearest of his property to him was Bayruha garden, which was facing the Prophet's mosque. Allah's apostle used to enter it and drink of its good fresh water. When the holy verse, "By no means shall you attain righteousness unless you spend in charity of that which you love," 3.92 was revealed, Abu Talha got up and said, "O Allah's apostle, Allah says, 'By no means shall you attain righteousness unless you spend of that which you love, and the dearest of my property to me is the Bayruha garden, and I want to give it in charity in Allah's cause, seeking to be rewarded by Allah for that. So you can spend it, O Allah's apostle, wherever Allah instructs you.'" Allah's apostle said, "Good, that is a perishable or profitable wealth." Abdullah is in doubt as to which word was used. He said, "I have heard what you have said, but in my opinion you'd better give it to your kith and kin." On that Abu Talha said, "I will do so, O Allah's apostle." Abu Talha distributed that garden among his kith and kin and cousins. Volume 7, Book 69, number 516, narrated by Anas bin Malik. I saw Allah's apostle drinking milk. He came to my house and I milked a sheep and then mixed the milk with water from the well for Allah's apostle. He took the bowl and drank, while on his left there was sitting Abu Bakr, and on his right there was a Bedouin. He then gave the remaining milk to the Bedouin and said, the right, first." Volume 7, Book 69, number 517, narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. Allah's apostle and one of his companions entered upon an Ansari man, and the Prophet said to him, "If you have water kept overnight in a water skin, give us, otherwise we will drink water by putting our mouth in it." The man was watering his garden then. He said, "O Allah's apostle, I have water kept overnight, let us go to the shade." So he took them both there and poured water into a bowl and milked a domestic goat of his in it. Allah's apostle drank, and then the man who had come along with him drank. Volume 7, Book 69, number 518, narrated by Aisha. The Prophet used to like sweet edible things, syrup, etc., and honey. Volume 7, Book 69, number 519, narrated by An-Nazal. All came to the gate of the courtyard of the mosque and drank water, while he was standing, and said, "Some people dislike to drink while standing, but I saw the Prophet drinking water, as you have seen me doing now." Volume 7, Book 69, number 520, narrated by An-Nazal bin Sabra. Ali offered the Zuhr prayer and then sat down in the wide courtyard of the mosque of Kufa in order to deal with the affairs of the people till the Asr prayer became due. Then water was brought to him and he drank of it, washed his face, hands, head and feet. Then he stood up and drank the remaining water while he was standing, and said, "Some people dislike to drink water while standing, thought the Prophet did as I have just done." Volume 7, Book 69, number 521, narrated by Ibn Abbas. The Prophet drank Zamzam water while standing. Volume 7, Book 69, number 522, narrated by al-Fadl, daughter of al-Harith. that she sent a bowl of milk to the Prophet while he was standing at Arafat in the afternoon of the day of Arafat. He took it in his hands and drank it. Narrated Abu Nadir, the Prophet was on the back of his camel. Volume 7, Book 69, number 523, narrated by Anas bin Malik. Milk mixed with water was brought to Allah's apostle while a Bedouin was on his right and Abu Bakr was on his left. He drank of it and then gave it to the Bedouin and said, the right first. Volume 7, Book 69, number 524, narrated by Sahl bin Sa'd. Allah's apostle was offered something to drink. He drank of it while on his right was a boy, and on his left were some elderly people. He said to the boy, "May I give these elderly people first?" The boy said, "By Allah, O Allah's apostle, I will not give up my share from you to somebody else." On that, Allah's apostle placed the cup in the hand of that boy. Volume 7, Book 69, number 525, narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. The Prophet and one of his companions entered upon an Ansari man. The Prophet and his companion greeted the man, and he replied, "O Allah's apostle, let my father and mother be sacrificed for you. It is hot," while he was watering his garden. The Prophet asked him, "If you have water kept overnight in a waterskin, give us, or else we will drink by putting our mouths in the basin." The man was watering the garden. The man said, "O Allah's apostle, I have water kept overnight in a waterskin." He went to the shade and poured some water into a bowl and milked some milk from a domestic goat in it. The Prophet drank and then gave the bowl to the man who had come along with him to drink. Volume 7, Book 69, number 526, narrated by Anas. I was waiting on my uncles, serving them with an alcoholic drink prepared from dates, and I was the youngest of them. Suddenly, it was said that alcoholic drinks had been prohibited, so they said to me, "Throw it away." And I threw it away. The sub-narrator said, "I asked Anas what their drink was made from. He replied, from ripe dates and unripe dates." Volume 7, Book 69, number 527, narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. Allah's apostle said, "When night falls, or when it is evening, stop your children from going out, for the devils spread out at that time. But when an hour of the night has passed, release them and close the doors and mention Allah's name, for Satan does not open a closed door. Tie the mouth of your water skin and mention Allah's name. Cover your containers and utensils and mention Allah's name. Cover them even by placing something across it, and extinguish your lamps." Volume 7, Book 69, number 528, narrated by Jabir. Allah's apostle said, "Extinguish the lamps when you go to bed, close your doors, tie the mouths of your water skins, and cover the food and drinks." I think he added, "Even with a stick you place across the container." Volume 7, Book 69, number 529, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. Allah's apostle forbade the bending of the mouths of water skins for the sake of drinking from them. Volume 7, Book 69, number 530, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. I heard Allah's apostle forbidding the drinking of water by bending the mouths of water skins, that is, drinking from the mouths directly. Volume 7, Book 69, number 531, narrated by Abu Huraira. Allah's apostle forbade drinking directly from the mouth of a waterskin or other leather containers, and forbade preventing one's neighbor from fixing a peg in the wall of one's house. Volume 7, Book 69, number 532, narrated by Abu Huraira. The Prophet forbade the drinking of water directly from the mouth of a waterskin. Volume 7, Book 69, number 533, narrated by Ibn Abbas. The Prophet forbade the drinking of water direct from the mouth of a waterskin. Volume 7, Book 69, number 534, narrated by Abu Qatada. Allah's apostle said, "When you drink water, do not breathe in the vessel, and when you urinate, do not touch your penis with your right hand, and when you cleanse yourself after defecation, do not use your right hand." Volume 7, Book 69, number 535, narrated by Thumama bin Abdullah. Anas used to breathe twice or thrice in the vessel while drinking, and used to say that the Prophet used to take 3 breaths while drinking. Volume 7, Book 69, number 536, narrated by Ibn Abi Layla. While Hudhayfa was at Mada'in, he asked for water. The chief of the village brought him a silver vessel. Hudhayfa threw it away and said, "I have thrown it away because I told him not to use it, but he has not stopped using it." The Prophet forbade us to wear clothes of silk or dibaj, and to drink in gold or silver utensils, and said, "These things are for them, unbelievers. in this world, and for you, Muslims, in the hereafter. Volume 7, Book 69, number 537, narrated by Hudhaifa. The Prophet said, "Do not drink in gold or silver utensils, and do not wear clothes of silk or dibaj, for these things are for them, unbelievers in this world, and for you in the hereafter." Volume 7, Book 69, number 538, narrated by Salama, the wife of the Prophet. Allah's apostle said, "He who drinks in silver utensils is only filling his abdomen with hellfire." Volume 7, Book 69, number 539, narrated by Al-Bara bin Azib. Allah's apostle ordered us to do 7 things and forbade us from 7. He ordered us to visit the sick, to follow funeral processions, to say to a sneezer, "May Allah bestow His mercy on you," if he says, "Praise be to Allah," to accept invitations, to greet everybody, to help the oppressed, and to help others to fulfill their oaths. He forbade us to wear gold rings, to drink in silver utensils, to use mayathir, silken carpets placed on saddles, to wear al-kisi, a kind of silken cloth, to wear silk, dibaj or istabrak, 2 kinds of silk. Volume 7, Book 69, number 540, narrated by al-Fadl. That the people were in doubt whether the Prophet was fasting on the day of Arafat or not, so a wooden drinking vessel full of milk was sent to him, and he drank it. Volume 7, Book 69, number 541, narrated by Sahl bin Sa'd. An Arab lady was mentioned to the Prophet, so he asked Abu Usaid as-Sa'idi to send for her, and he sent for her, and she came and stayed in the castle of Bani Sa'ida. The Prophet came out and went to her and entered upon her. Behold, it was a lady sitting with a drooping head. When the Prophet spoke to her, she said, "I seek refuge with Allah from you." He said, "I grant you refuge from me." They said to her, "Do you know who this is?" She said, "No." They said, "This is Allah's apostle who has come to command your hand in marriage." She said, "I am very unlucky to lose this chance." Then the Prophet and his companions went towards the shed of Bani Sa'ida and sat there. Then he said, "Give us water, O Sahl." So I took out this drinking bowl and gave them water in it. The sub-narrator added, "Sahl took out for us that very drinking bowl, and we all drank from it." Later on, Umar bin Abdul Aziz requested Sahl to give it to him as a present, and he gave it to him as a present. Volume 7, Book 69, number 542, narrated by Asim al-Ahwal. I saw the drinking bowl of the Prophet with Anas bin Malik, and it had been broken, and he had mended it with silver plates. That drinking bowl was quite wide and made of nadar wood. Anas said, "I gave water to the Prophet in that bowl more than so-and-so for a long period." Ibn Sirin said, "Around that bowl there was an iron ring, and Anas wanted to replace it with a silver or gold ring, but Abu Talha said to him, 'Do not change a thing that Allah's apostle has made.' So Anas left it as it was." Volume 7, Book 69, number 543, narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. I was with the Prophet, and the time for the Asr prayer became due. We had no water with us except a little which was put in a vessel and was brought to the Prophet. He put his hand into it and spread out his fingers and then said, "Come along. Hurry up, all those who want to perform ablution, the blessing is from Allah." I saw the water gushing out from his fingers. So the people performed the ablution and drank, and I tried to drink more of that water, beyond my thirst and capacity, for I knew that it was a blessing. The sub-narrator said, I asked Jabir, "How many persons were you then?" He replied, "We were 1,400 men." Salim said, Jabir said, 1,500. In this second episode of this video, we will discuss about patience. Volume 7, Book 70, number 544, narrated by Aisha, the wife of the Prophet. Allah's apostle said, "No calamity befalls a Muslim, but that Allah expiates some of his sins because of it, even though it were the prick he receives from a thorn." Volume 7, Book 70, number 545, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri and Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, "No fatigue, nor disease, nor sorrow, nor sadness, nor hurt, nor distress befalls a Muslim, even if it were the prick he receives from a thorn, but that Allah expiates some of his sins for that." Volume 7, Book 70, number 546, narrated by Kab. The Prophet said, "The example of a believer is that of a fresh tender plant, which the wind bends sometimes, and some other time it makes it straight. And the example of a hypocrite is that of a pine tree which keeps straight till once it is uprooted suddenly." Volume 7, Book 70, number 547, narrated by Abu Huraira. Allah's apostle said, "The example of a believer is that of a fresh tender plant. From whatever direction the wind comes, it bends it, but when the wind becomes quiet, it becomes straight again." Similarly, a believer is afflicted with calamities, but he remains patient till Allah removes his difficulties. And an impious wicked person is like a pine tree which keeps hard and straight till Allah breaks it down when he wishes. See Hadith, number 558, Vol. 9, Volume 7, Book 70, number 548, narrated by Abu Huraira. Allah's apostle said, "If Allah wants to do good to somebody, he afflicts him with trials." Volume 7, Book 70, number 549, narrated by Aisha. I never saw anybody suffering so much from sickness as Allah's apostle. Volume 7, Book 70, number 550, narrated by Abdullah. I visited the Prophet during his ailments and he was suffering from a high fever. I said, "You have a high fever. Is it because you will have a double reward for it?" He said, "Yes, for no Muslim is afflicted with any harm, but that Allah will remove his sins as the leaves of a tree fall down." Volume 7, Book 70, number 551, narrated by Abdullah. I visited Allah's apostle while he was suffering from a high fever. I said, "O Allah's apostle, you have a high fever." He said, "Yes, I have as much fever as 2 men of you." I said, "Is it because you will have a double reward?" He said, "Yes, it is so. No Muslim is afflicted with any harm, even if it were the prick of a thorn, but that Allah expiates his sins because of that, as a tree sheds its leaves." Volume 7, Book 70, number 552, narrated by Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. The Prophet said, "Feed the hungry, visit the sick, and set free the captives." Volume 7, Book 70, number 553, narrated by Al-Bara bin Azib. Allah's apostle ordered us to do 7 things and forbade us to do 7 other things. He forbade us to wear gold rings, silk, dibaj, istabrik, kisi, and mayithara, and ordered us to accompany funeral processions, visit the sick, and greet everybody. See Hadith number 104, Volume 7, Book 70, number 554, narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. Once I fell ill. The Prophet and Abu Bakr came walking to pay me a visit and found me unconscious. The Prophet performed ablution and then poured the remaining water on me, and I came to my senses to see the Prophet. I said, "O Allah's apostle, what shall I do with my property? How shall I distribute my property?" He did not reply till the verse of inheritance was revealed. Volume 7, Book 70, number 555, narrated by Atta bin Abi Rabah ibn Abbas said to me, "Shall I show you a woman of the people of paradise?" I said, "Yes." He said, "This black lady came to the Prophet and said, 'I get attacks of epilepsy and my body becomes uncovered. Please invoke Allah for me.' The Prophet said to her, 'If you wish, be patient and you will enter paradise. And if you wish, I will invoke Allah to cure you.' She said, 'I will remain patient,' and added, 'But I become uncovered, so please invoke Allah for me that I may not become uncovered.' So he invoked Allah for her. Volume 7, Book 70, number 556, narrated by Atta that he had seen Zafar, the tall black lady, holding the curtain of the Kaaba. Volume 7, Book 70, number 557, narrated by Anas bin Malik. I heard Allah's apostle saying, Allah said, "If I deprive my slave of his 2 beloved things, that is, his eyes, and he remains patient, I will let him enter paradise in compensation for them." Volume 7, Book 70, number 558, narrated by Aisha. When Allah's apostle emigrated to Medina, Abu Bakr and Bilal got a fever. I entered upon them and asked, "O my father, how are you? O Bilal, how are you?" Whenever fever attacked Abu Bakr, he would recite the following poetic verses: "Everybody is staying alive among his people, yet death is nearer to him than his shoelaces." And whenever the fever deserted Bilal, he would recite 2 poetic lines: "Would that I could stay overnight in a valley wherein I would be surrounded by Idkir and Jalil, 2 kinds of good-smelling grass. Would that one day I would drink of the water of Majinna, and would that Shama and Tafil, 2 mountains at Mecca, would appear to me." Then I came and informed Allah's apostle about that, whereupon he said, "O Allah, make us love Medina as much or more than we love Mecca. O Allah, make it healthy and bless its mud and saw for us, and take away its fever and put it in Al-Jufa." Volume 7, Book 70, number 559, narrated by Abu Uthman Usama bin Zaid, said that while he Saad and Ubay bin Ka'b were with the Prophet. A daughter of the Prophet sent a message to him, saying, "My daughter is dying, please come to us." The Prophet sent her his greetings and added, "It is for Allah what he takes and what he gives, and everything before his sight has a limited period, so she should hope for Allah's reward and remain patient." She again sent a message beseeching him by Allah to come, so the Prophet got up, and so did we, and went there. The child was placed on his lap while his breath was irregular. Tears flowed from the eyes of the Prophet. Saad said to him, "What is this, O Allah's apostle?" He said, "This is mercy which Allah has embedded in the hearts of whomever he wished of his slaves, and Allah does not bestow his mercy except on the merciful among his slaves." See Hadith number 373 Vol. 2, Volume 7 Book 70 number 560, narrated by Ibn Abbas. The Prophet went to visit a sick Bedouin. Whenever the Prophet went to a patient, he used to say to him, "Don't worry, if Allah will, it will be expiation for your sins." The Bedouin said, "You say expiation? No, it is but a fever that is boiling or harassing an old man and will lead him to his grave without his will." The Prophet said, "Then, yes, it is so." Volume 7, Book 70, number 561, narrated by Anas. A Jewish boy used to serve the Prophet and became ill. The Prophet went to pay him a visit and said to him, "Embrace Islam," and he did embrace Islam. Al-Musayyab said, when Abu Talib was on his deathbed, the Prophet visited him. Volume 7, Book 70, number 562, narrated by Aisha. During the ailment of the Prophet, some people came to visit him. He led them in prayer while sitting, but they prayed standing, so he waved to them to sit down. When he had finished the prayer, he said, "An imam is to be followed, so when he bows, you should bow, and when he raises his head, you should raise yours, and if he prays sitting, you should pray sitting." Abu Abdullah said Al-Humaydi said, the order of this narration has been abrogated by the last action of the Prophet as he led the prayer sitting, while the people prayed standing behind him. Volume 7, Book 70, number 563, narrated by Saad. I became seriously ill at Mecca, and the Prophet came to visit me. I said, "O Allah's apostle, I shall leave behind me a good fortune, but my heir is my only daughter. Shall I bequeath 2/3 of my property to be spent in charity and leave 1/3 for my heir?" He said, "No." I said, "Shall I bequeath half and leave half?" He said, "No." I said, "Shall I bequeath 1/3 and leave 2/3? He said, "1/3 is all right, though even 1/3 is too much." Then he placed his hand on his forehead and passed it over my face and abdomen and said, "O Allah, cure Saad and complete his emigration." I feel as if I have been feeling the coldness of his hand on my liver ever since. Narrated by Abdullah bin Mas'ud. I visited Allah's apostle while he was suffering from a high fever. I touched him with my hand and said, "O Allah's apostle, you have a high fever." Allah's apostle said, "Yes, I have as much fever as 2 men of you have." I said, "Is it because you will get a double reward?" Allah's apostle said, "Yes, no Muslim is afflicted with harm because of sickness or some other inconvenience, but that Allah will remove his sins for him as a tree sheds its leaves." Volume 7, Book 70, number 565, narrated by Abdullah. I visited the Prophet during his illness and touched him while he was having a fever. I said to him, "You have a high fever. Is it because you will get a double reward?" He said, "Yes, no Muslim is afflicted with any harm, but that his sins will be annulled as the leaf of a tree fall down." Volume 7, Book 70, number 566, narrated by Ibn Abbas. Allah's apostle entered upon sick man to pay him a visit, and said to him, "Don't worry, Allah willing, your sickness will be an expiation for your sins." The man said, "No, it is but a fever that is boiling within an old man and will send him to his grave." On that, the Prophet said, "Then yes, it is so." Volume 7, Book 70, number 567, narrated by Usama bin Zaid. The Prophet rode a donkey having a saddle with a fatakiya velvet covering. He mounted me behind him and went to visit Sa'd bin Ubadah, and that had been before the Battle of Badr. The Prophet proceeded till he passed by a gathering in which Abdullah bin Ubay bin Salul was present, and that had been before Abdullah embraced Islam. The gathering comprised of Muslims, polytheists, that is, isolators and Jews. Abdullah bin Rawaha was also present in that gathering. When dust raised by the donkey covered the gathering, Abdullah bin Ubay covered his nose with his upper garment and said, "Do not trouble us with dust." The Prophet greeted them, stopped and dismounted. Then he invited them to Allah, that is, to embrace Islam, and recited to them some verses of the Holy Quran. On that, Abdullah bin Ubay said, "O man, there is nothing better than what you say if it is true. Do not trouble us with it in our gathering, but return to your house, and if somebody comes to you, teach him there." On that Abdullah bin Rawaha said, "Yes, O Allah's apostle, bring your teachings to our gathering, for we love that." So the Muslims, the pagans, and the Jews started abusing each other till they were about to fight. The Prophet kept on quietening them till they became calm. Thereupon the Prophet mounted his animal and proceeded till he entered upon Sa'd bin Ubadah. He said to him, "O Sa'd, have you not heard what Abu Hubab, that is Abdullah bin Ubay, said?" Sa'd said, "O Allah's apostle, excuse and forgive him, for Allah has given you what he has given you." The people of this town, Medina, decided unanimously to crown him and make him their chief by placing a turban on his head. But when that was prevented by the truth which Allah had given you, he, Abdullah bin Ubay, was grieved out of jealousy, and that was the reason which caused him to behave in the way you have seen. Volume 7, Book 70, number 568, narrated by Jabir. The Prophet came to visit me while I was sick, and he was riding neither a mule nor a horse. Volume 7, Book 70, number 569, narrated by Ka'b bin Ujara. The Prophet passed by me while I was kindling a fire under a cooking pot. He said, "Do the lice of your head trouble you?" I said yes. So he called a barber to shave my head and ordered me to make expiation for that. Volume 7, Book 70, number 570, narrated by Al-Qasim bin Muhammad. Aisha, complaining of headache, said, "O my head." Allah's apostle said, "I wish that had happened while I was still living, for then I would ask Allah's forgiveness for you and invoke Allah for you." Aisha said, "Wathuklaya, by Allah, I think you want me to die, and if this should happen, you would spend the last part of the day sleeping with one of your wives." The Prophet said, "Nay, I should say, O my head, I felt like sending for Abu Bakr and his son and appoint him as my successor, lest some people claimed something or some others wished something. But then I said to myself, Allah would not allow it to be otherwise, and the Muslims would prevent it to be otherwise." Volume 7, Book 70, number 571, narrated by Ibn Masud. I visited the Prophet while he was having a high fever. I touched him and said, "You have a very high fever." He said, "Yes, as much fever as 2 of you may have." I said, "You will have a double reward?" He said, "Yes, no Muslim is afflicted with hurt caused by disease or some other inconvenience, but that Allah will remove his sins as a tree sheds its leaves." Volume 7, Book 70, number 572. Narrated by Sa'd. Allah's apostle came to visit me during my ailment, which had been aggravated during Hajjat al-Wada. I said to him, "You see how sick I am. I have much property, but have no heir except my only daughter. May I give 2/3 of my property in charity?" He said, "No." I said, "Half of it?" He said, "No." I said, 1/3? He said, 1/3 is too much, for to leave your heirs rich is better than to leave them poor, begging of others. Nothing you spend seeking Allah's pleasure, but you shall get a reward for it, even for what you put in the mouth of your wife. Volume 7, Book 70, number 573, narrated by Ibn Abbas. When Allah's apostle was on his deathbed and in the house, there were some people among whom was Umar bin al-Khattab. The Prophet said, "Come, let me write for you a statement after which you will not go astray." Umar said, "The Prophet is seriously ill, and you have the Quran, so the book of Allah is enough for us." The people present in the house differed and quarreled. Some said, "Go near so that the Prophet may write for you a statement after which you will not go astray," while the others said as Umar said. When they caused a hue and cry before the Prophet, Allah's apostle said, "Go away." Narrated Ubaidullah. Ibn Abbas used to say, "It was very unfortunate that Allah's apostle was prevented from writing that statement for them because of their disagreement and noise." Volume 7, Book 70, number 574, narrated by As-Sa'ib. My aunt took me to Allah's apostle and said, "O Allah's apostle, my nephew is ill." The Prophet touched my head with his hand and invoked Allah to bless me. He then performed ablution, and I drank of the remaining water of his ablution, and then stood behind his back and saw Khatam an-Nubuwah, the seal of prophethood, between his shoulders like a button of a tent. Volume 7, Book 70, number 575, narrated by Anas bin Malik. The Prophet said, "None of you should wish for death because of a calamity befalling him. But if he has to wish for death, he should say, 'O Allah, keep me alive as long as life is better for me, and let me die if death is better for me.'" Volume 7, Book 70, number 576, narrated by Qais bin Abi Hazim. We went to pay a visit to Kebab, who was sick, and he had been cauterized at 7 places in his body. He said, "Our companions who died during the lifetime of the Prophet left this world without having their rewards reduced through enjoying the pleasures of this life. But we have got so much wealth that we find no way to spend it except on the construction of buildings. Had the Prophet not forbidden us to wish for death, I would have wished for it." We visited him for the 2nd time while he was building a wall. He said, "A Muslim is rewarded in the hereafter for whatever he spends except for something that he spends on building." Volume 7, Book 70, number 577, narrated by Abu Huraira. I heard Allah's Apostle saying, "The good deeds of any person will not make him enter paradise." That is, none can enter paradise through his good deeds. They, the Prophet's companions, said, "Not even you, O Allah's Apostle." He said, "Not even myself, unless Allah bestows His favor and mercy on me." So be moderate in your religious deeds and do the deeds that are within your ability. And none of you should wish for death. For if he is a good doer, he may increase his good deeds, and if he is an evil doer, he may repent to Allah. Volume 7, Book 70, number 578, narrated by Aisha. I heard the Prophet, who was resting against me, saying, "O Allah, excuse me and bestow your mercy on me and let me join with the highest companions in paradise." See Quran 4.69, Volume 7, Book 70, number 579, narrated by Aisha. Whenever Allah's Apostle paid a visit to a patient, or a patient was brought to him, he used to invoke Allah, saying, "Take away the disease, O the Lord of the people. Cure him as you are the one who cures. There is no cure but yours, a cure that leaves no disease." Volume 7, Book 70, number 580, narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. The Prophet came to me while I was ill. He performed ablution and threw the remaining water on me, or said, "Pour it on him." When I came to my senses, I said, "O Allah's Apostle, I have no son or father to be my heir, so how will be my inheritance?" Then the verse of inheritance was revealed. Volume 7, Book 70, number 581, narrated by Aisha. When Allah's Apostle emigrated to Medina, Abu Bakr and Bilal had a fever. I entered upon them and said, "O my father, how are you? O Bilal, how are you?" Whenever Abu Bakr got the fever, he used to say, "Everybody is staying alive with his people, yet death is nearer to him than his shoelaces." And when fever deserted Bilal, he would recite 2 poetic verses, "Would that I could stay overnight in a valley wherein I would be surrounded by Idkir and Jalil, 2 kinds of good-smelling grass. Would that one day I could drink of the water of Majinna, and would that Shama and Tafel, 2 mountains at Mecca, would appear to me." I went to Allah's Apostle and informed him about that. He said, "O Allah, make us love Medina as much or more than we love Mecca, and make it healthy, and bless its saw and its mud, and take away its fever and put it in Al-Jufa." See Hadith No. 558. Blood Money in Islam, Volume 9, Book 83, Number 1, narrated by Abdullah. A man said, "O Allah's Apostle, which sin is the greatest in Allah's sight?" The Prophet said, "To set up a rival unto Allah, though He alone created you." The man said, "What is next?" The Prophet said, "To kill your son lest he should share your food with you." The man said, "What is next?" The Prophet said, "To commit illegal sexual intercourse with the wife of your neighbor." So Allah revealed in confirmation of this narration, "And those who invoke not with Allah any other God, nor kill such life as Allah has forbidden, except for just cause, nor commit illegal sexual intercourse, and whoever does this shall receive the punishment." 25.68. Volume 9, Book 83, Number 2, narrated by Ibn Umar. Allah's Apostle said, "A faithful believer remains at liberty regarding his religion unless he kills somebody unlawfully." Volume 9, Book 83, Number 3, narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. One of the evil deeds with bad consequence from which there is no escape for the one who is involved in it is to kill someone unlawfully. Volume 9, Book 83, Number 4, narrated by Abdullah. The Prophet said, "The first cases to be decided among the people on the day of resurrection will be those of bloodshed." Volume 9, Book 83, Number 5, narrated by Al-Miqdad bin Amr al-Kindi, an ally of Bani Zura who took part in the Battle of Badr with the Prophet, that he said, "O Allah's Apostle, if I meet an unbeliever and we have a fight, and he strikes my hand with the sword and cuts it off, and then takes refuge from me under a tree and says, 'I have surrendered to Allah,' that is embraced Islam, may I kill him after he has said so?" Allah's apostle said, "Do not kill him." Al-Miqdad said, "But O Allah's apostle, he had chopped off one of my hands and he said that after he had cut it off, 'May I kill him?' The Prophet said, "Do not kill him, for if you kill him, he would be in the position in which you had been before you kill him, and you would be in the position in which he was before he said the sentence." The Prophet also said to Al-Miqdad, "If a faithful believer conceals his faith, Islam, from the disbelievers, and then when he declares his Islam, you kill him, you will be sinful. Remember that you were also concealing your faith, Islam, at Mecca before." Volume 9, Book 83, Number 6, narrated by Abdullah. The Prophet said, "No human being is killed unjustly, but a part of responsibility for the crime is laid on the first son of Adam, who invented the tradition of killing, murdering on the earth. It is said that he was Qabil." Volume 9, Book 83, Number 7, narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. The Prophet said, "After me, that is after my death, do not become disbelievers by striking, cutting the necks of one another." Volume 9, Book 83, Number 8, narrated by Abu Zur'a bin Amr bin Jarir. The Prophet said during Hajjat al-Wada, "Let the people be quiet and listen to me. After me, do not become disbelievers by striking, cutting the necks of one another." Volume 9, Book 83, Number 9, narrated by Abdullah bin Amr. The Prophet said, "Al-Kaba'ir, the biggest sins, are to join others as partners in worship with Allah, to be undutiful to one's parents, or said, to take a false oath." The sub-narrator, Shuba, is not sure. Mu'ad said, Shuba said, "Al-Kaba'ir, the biggest sins, are 1. Joining others as partners in worship with Allah, 2. To take a false oath, 3. And to be undutiful to one's parents, or said, to murder someone unlawfully." Volume 9, Book 83, Number 10, narrated by Anas bin Malik. The Prophet said, "The biggest of al-Kabair, the great sins, are 1. To join others as partners in worship with Allah, 2. To murder a human being, 3. To be undutiful to one's parents, 4. And to make a false statement, or said, to give a false witness." Volume 9, Book 83, Number 11, narrated by Usama bin Zaid bin Haritha. Allah's apostle sent us to fight against Al-Huraka, one of the sub-tribes of Juhayna. We reached those people in the morning and defeated them. A man from the Ansar and I chased one of their men, and when we attacked him, he said, "None has the right to be worshipped but Allah." The Ansari refrained from killing him, but I stabbed him with my spear till I killed him. When we reached Medina, this news reached the Prophet. He said to me, "O Usama, you killed him after he had said, 'None has the right to be worshipped but Allah.'" I said, "O Allah's apostle, he said so in order to save himself." The Prophet said, "You killed him after he had said, 'None has the right to be worshipped but Allah.'" The Prophet kept on repeating that statement till I wished I had not been a Muslim before that day. Volume 9, Book 83, Number 12, narrated by Ubadah bin As-Samat. I was among those Naqibs, selected leaders, who gave the Pledge of Allegiance to Allah's apostle. We gave the oath of allegiance that we would not join partners in worship besides Allah, would not steal, would not commit illegal sexual intercourse, would not kill a life which Allah has forbidden, would not commit robbery, would not disobey Allah and His apostle. And if we fulfilled this pledge, we would have paradise. But if we committed any one of these sins, then our case will be decided by Allah. Volume 9, Book 83, Number 13, narrated by Abdullah. The Prophet said, "Whoever carries arms against us is not from us." Volume 9, Book 83, Number 14, narrated by Al-Hanaf bin Qais. I went to help that man, that is, Ali, and on the way I met Abu Bakr, who asked me, "Where are you going?" I replied, "I'm going to help that man." He said, "Go back, for I heard Allah's apostle saying, if two Muslims meet each other with their swords, then both, the killer and the killed one, are in the hell fire." I said, "O Allah's apostle, it is all right for the killer, but what about the killed one?" He said, "The killed one was eager to kill his opponent." Volume 9, Book 83, Number 15, narrated by Anas bin Malik. A Jew crushed the head of a girl between two stones, and the girl was asked, "Who has done that to you, so-and-so or so-and-so?" Some names were mentioned for her, till the name of that Jew was mentioned, whereupon she agreed. The Jew was brought to the Prophet, and the Prophet kept on questioning him till he confessed, whereupon his head was crushed with stones. Volume 9, Book 83, Number 16, narrated by Anas bin Malik. A girl wearing ornaments went out at Medina. Somebody struck her with a stone. She was brought to the Prophet while she was still alive. Allah's apostle asked her, "Did such and such a person strike you?" She raised her head, denying that. He asked her a second time, saying, "Did so-and-so strike you?" She raised her head, denying that. He said for the third time, "Did so-and-so strike you?" She lowered her head, agreeing. Allah's apostle then sent for the killer and killed him between two stones. Volume 9, Book 83, number 17, narrated by Abdullah. Allah's apostle said, "The blood of a Muslim who confesses that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah and that I am his apostle cannot be shed except in three cases. In qisas for murder, a married person who commits illegal sexual intercourse, and the one who reverts from Islam, apostate, and leaves the Muslims." Volume 9, Book 83, number 18, narrated by Anas. A Jew killed a girl so that he may steal her ornaments. He struck her with a stone and she was brought to the Prophet while she was still alive. The Prophet asked her, "Did such and such person strike you?" She gestured with her head, expressing denial. He asked her for the second time and she again gestured with her head, expressing denial. When he asked her for the third time, she beckoned, "Yes." So the Prophet killed him, the Jew, with 2 stones. Volume 9, Book 83, number 19, narrated by Abu Huraira. In the year of the conquest of Mecca, the tribe of Khuza'ah killed a man from the tribe of Bam-Laith in revenge for a killed person belonging to them in the pre-Islamic period of ignorance. So Allah's apostle got up saying, "Allah held back the army having elephants from Mecca, but he let his apostle and the believers overpower the infidels of Mecca. Beware, Mecca is a sanctuary. Verily, fighting in Mecca was not permitted for anybody before me, nor will it be permitted for anybody after me. It was permitted for me only for a while, an hour or so, of that day. No doubt, it is at this moment a sanctuary. Its thorny shrubs should not be uprooted, its trees should not be cut down, and its lukata, fallen things, should not be picked up except by the one who would look for its owner. And if somebody is killed, his closest relative has the right to choose one of 2 things, that is, either the blood money or retaliation by having the killer killed." Then a man from Yemen called Abu Shah stood up and said, "Write that, for me, O Allah's apostle." Allah's apostle said to his companions, "Write that for Abu Shah." Then another man from Quraysh got up, saying, "O Allah's apostle, accept al-idkir, a special kind of grass, as we use it in our houses and for graves." Allah's apostle said, "Accept al-idkir." Volume 9, Book 83, number 20. Narrated by Ibn Abbas. For the children of Israel, the punishment for crime was al-qisas only, that is, the law of equality in punishment, and the payment of blood money was not permitted as an alternate. But Allah said to this nation, "Muslims, O you who believe, qisas is prescribed for you in case of murder," up to end of the verse, 2.178. Ibn Abbas added, "Remission, forgiveness in this verse means to accept the blood money in an intentional murder." Ibn Abbas added, the verse, "Then the relatives should demand blood money in a reasonable manner." 2.178 means that the demand should be reasonable and it is to be compensated with handsome gratitude. Volume 9, Book 83, number 21, narrated by Ibn Abbas. The Prophet said, "The most hated persons to Allah are 3. 1. A person who deviates from the right conduct, that is, an evildoer, in the haram, sanctuaries of Mecca and Medina. 2. A person who seeks that the traditions of the pre-Islamic period of ignorance should remain in Islam. 3. And a person who seeks to shed somebody's blood without any right." Volume 9, Book 83, number 22, narrated by Aisha. The pagans were defeated on the day of the Battle of Uhud. Satan shouted among the people on the day of Uhud, "O Allah's worshippers, beware of what is behind you." So the front file of the army attacked the back files, mistaking them for the enemy, till they killed Al-Yaman. Hudayfa bin Al-Yaman shouted, my father, but they killed him. Hudayfa said, "May Allah forgive you." The narrator added, some of the defeated pagans fled till they reached Taif. Volume 9, Book 83, number 23, narrated by Anas bin Malik. A Jew crushed the head of a girl between 2 stones. It was said to her, "Who has done this to you, such and such person, such and such person?" When the name of the Jew was mentioned, she nodded with her head, agreeing. So the Jew was brought and he confessed. The Prophet ordered that his head be crushed with the stones. Hammam said, "With 2 stones." Volume 9, Book 83, number 24, narrated by Anas bin Malik. The Prophet killed a Jew for killing a girl in order to take her ornaments. Volume 9, Book 83, number 25, narrated by Aisha. We poured medicine into the mouth of the Prophet during his ailment. He said, "Don't pour medicine into my mouth." We thought he said that out of the aversion a patient usually has for medicines. When he improved and felt better, he said, "There is none of you but will be forced to drink medicine, except Al-Abbas, for he did not witness your deed." Volume 9, Book 83, Number 26, narrated by Abu Huraira. That he heard Allah's apostle saying, "We, Muslims, are the last to come, but will be the foremost on the day of resurrection," and added, "If someone is peeping, looking secretly into your house without your permission, and you throw a stone at him and destroy his eyes, there will be no blame on you." Volume 9, Book 83, Number 27, narrated by Yahya Humaid, said, "A man peeped into the house of the Prophet, and the Prophet aimed an arrowhead at him to hit him. I asked, 'Who told you that?' He said, 'Anas bin Malik.' See Hadith No. 258 and 259, Vol. 8. Volume 9, Book 83, Number 28, narrated by Aisha. When it was the day of the Battle of Uhud, the pagans were defeated. Then Satan shouted, 'O Allah's worshippers, beware of what is behind you.' So the front files attacked the back files of the army. Hudhaifa looked, and behold, there was his father, Al-Yaman, being attacked. He shouted to his companions, 'O Allah's worshippers, my father, my father.' But by Allah, they did not stop till they killed him, that is, Hudhaifa's father. Hudhaifa said, 'May Allah forgive you.' Urwa said, Hudhaifa continued asking Allah's forgiveness for the killer of his father till he died. Volume 9, Book 83, Number 29, narrated by Salama. We went out with the Prophet to Khaybar. A man from the companions said, 'O Amir, let us hear some of your huda, camel-driving songs.' So he sang some of them. That is a lyric in harmony with the camel's walk. The Prophet said, 'Who is the driver of these camels?' They said, 'Amir.' The Prophet said, 'May Allah bestow His mercy on him.' The people said, 'O Allah's apostle, would that you let us enjoy his company longer?' Then Amir was killed the following morning. The people said, 'The good deeds of Amir are lost as he has killed himself.' I returned at the time while they were talking about that. I went to the Prophet and said, 'O Allah's Prophet, let my father be sacrificed for you. The people claim that Amir's good deeds are lost.' The Prophet said, 'Whoever says so is a liar, for Amir will have a double reward as he exerted himself to obey Allah and fought in Allah's cause. No other way of killing would have granted him greater reward.' Volume 9, Book 83, Number 30, narrated by Imran bin Hussein. A man bit another man's hand, and the latter pulled his hand out of his mouth by force, causing 2 of his incisors, teeth, to fall out. They submitted their case to the Prophet, who said, 'One of you bit his brother as a male camel bites. Go away. There is no diya, blood money for you.' Volume 9, Book 83, Number 31, narrated by Yala. I went out in one of the Ghazwa, and a man bit another man, and as a result, an incisor tooth of the former was pulled out. The Prophet cancelled the case. Volume 9, Book 83, Number 32, narrated by Anas. The daughter of An-Nadr slapped a girl and broke her incisor tooth. They, the relatives of that girl, came to the Prophet, and he gave the order of Qisas, equality in punishment. Volume 9, Book 83, Number 33, narrated by Ibn Abbas. The Prophet said, 'This and this are the same.' He meant the little finger and the thumb. Volume 9, Book 83, Number 34, narrated by Aisha. I heard the Prophet saying the same as above, Hadith 34. Volume 9, Book 83, Number 35, narrated by Aisha. We poured medicine into the mouth of Allah's apostle during his illness, and he pointed out to us intending to say, 'Don't pour medicine into my mouth.' We thought that his refusal was out of the aversion a patient usually has for medicine. When he improved and felt a bit better, he said to us, 'Didn't I forbid you to pour medicine into my mouth?' We said, 'We thought you did so because of the aversion one usually have for medicine.' Allah's apostle said, 'There is none of you but will be forced to drink medicine, and I will watch you, except Al-Abbas, for he did not witness this act of yours.' Volume 9, Book 83, Number 36, narrated by Sal bin Abi Hathma, a man from the Ansar. That a number of people from his tribe went to Khaybar and dispersed, and then they found one of them murdered. They said to the people with whom the corpse had been found, 'You have killed our companion.' Those people said, 'Neither have we killed him, nor do we know his killer.' The bereaved group went to the Prophet and said, 'O Allah's apostle, we went to Khaybar and found one of us murdered.' The Prophet said, 'Let the older among you come forward and speak.' Then the Prophet said to them, 'Bring your proof against the killer.' They said, "We have no proof." The prophet said, "Then they, the defendants, will take an oath." They said, "We do not accept the oaths of the Jews." Allah's apostle did not like that the blood money of the killed one be lost without compensation, so he paid 100 camels out of the camels of Zakat to the relatives of the deceased as diya, blood money. Volume 9, Book 83, Number 37, narrated by Abu Kilaba. Once, Umar bin Abdul Aziz sat on his throne in the courtyard of his house so that the people might gather before him. Then he admitted them, and when they came in, he said, "What do you think of Al-Qasama?" They said, "We say that it is lawful to depend on Al-Qasama in Qisas, as the previous Muslim caliphs carried out Qisas depending on it." Then he said to me, "O Abu Kilaba, what do you say about it?" He let me appear before the people, and I said, "O chief of the believers, you have the chiefs of the army staff and the nobles of the Arabs. If 50 of them testified that a married man had committed illegal sexual intercourse in Damascus, but they had not seen him doing so, would you stone him?" He said, "No." I said, "If 50 of them testified that a man had committed theft in Homs, would you cut off his hand though they did not see him?" He replied, "No." I said, "By Allah, Allah's apostle never killed anyone except in one of the following 3 situations. 1. A person who killed somebody unjustly was killed in Qisas. 2. A married person who committed illegal sexual intercourse. And 3. A man who fought against Allah and his apostle and deserted Islam and became an apostate." Then the people said, "Didn't Anas bin Malik narrate that Allah's apostle cut off the hands of the thieves, branded their eyes, and then threw them in the sun?" I said, "I shall tell you the narration of Anas." Anas said, 8 persons from the tribe of Ukul came to Allah's apostle and gave the pledge of allegiance for Islam, became Muslim. The climate of the place, Medina, did not suit them, so they became sick and complained about that to Allah's apostle. He said to them, "Won't you go out with the shepherd of our camels and drink of the camel's milk and urine as medicine?" They said yes. So they went out and drank the camel's milk and urine, and after they became healthy, they killed the shepherd of Allah's apostle and took away all the camels. This news reached Allah's apostle, so he sent men to follow their traces, and they were captured and brought to the prophet. He then ordered to cut their hands and feet, and their eyes were branded with heated pieces of iron, and then he threw them in the sun till they died. I said, "What can be worse than what those people did? They deserted Islam, committed murder and theft." Then Anbasa bin Sa'id said, "By Allah, I never heard a narration like this of today." I said, "O Anbasa, you deny my narration?" Anbasa said, "No, but you have related the narration in the way it should be related. By Allah, these people are in welfare as long as this sheikh, Abu Kilaba, is among them." I added, "Indeed, in this event there has been a tradition set by Allah's apostle." The narrator added, "Some Ansari people came to the Prophet and discussed some matters with him. A man from amongst them went out and was murdered. Those people went out after him, and behold, their companion was swimming in blood. They returned to Allah's apostle and said to him, 'O Allah's apostle, we have found our companion who had talked with us and gone out before us, swimming in blood, killed.' Allah's apostle went out and asked them, 'Whom do you suspect, or whom do you think has killed him?' They said, 'We think that the Jews have killed him.' The Prophet sent for the Jews and asked them, 'Did you kill this person?' They replied, 'No.' He asked the Al-Ansars, 'Do you agree that I let 50 Jews take an oath that they have not killed him?' They said, 'It matters little for the Jews to kill us all and then take false oaths.' He said, 'Then would you like to receive the diya after 50 of you have taken an oath that the Jews have killed your man?' They said, 'We will not take the oath.' Then the Prophet himself paid them the diya, blood money. The narrator added, 'The tribe of Hudhayl repudiated one of their men for his evil conduct in the pre-Islamic period of ignorance. Then, at a place called Al-Batha, near Mecca, the man attacked a Yemenite family at night to steal from them, but a man from the family noticed him and struck him with his sword and killed him. The tribe of Hudayl came and captured the Yemenite and brought him to Umar during the Hajj season and said, 'He has killed our companion.' The Yemenite said, 'But these people had repudiated him,' that is, their companion. Umar said, 'Let 50 persons of Hudayl swear that they had not repudiated him.' So 49 of them took the oath, and then a person belonging to them came from Sham, and they requested him to swear similarly, but he paid 1,000 dirhams instead of taking the oath. They called another man instead of him, and the new man shook hands with the brother of the deceased. Some people said, "We and those 50 men who had taken false oaths, Al-Qasama, set out, and when they reached a place called Nakhla, it started raining, so they entered a cave in the mountain, and the cave collapsed on those 50 men who took the false oath, and all of them died except the 2 persons who had shaken hands with each other. They escaped death, but a stone fell on the leg of the brother of the deceased and broke it, whereupon he survived for 1 year and then died." I further said, Abdul Malik bin Marwan sentenced a man to death in Qisas, equality in punishment, for murder, basing his judgment on Al-Qasama, but later on he regretted that judgment and ordered that the names of the 50 persons who had taken the oath, Al-Qasama, be erased from the register, and he exiled them in Sham. Volume 9, Book 83, number 38. Narrated by Anas. A man peeped into one of the dwelling places of the Prophet. The Prophet got up and aimed a sharp-edged arrowhead or wooden stick at him to poke him stealthily. Volume 9, Book 83, number 38. Narrated by Sahl bin Sa'd as-Sa'idi. A man peeped through a hole in the door of Allah's apostle's house, and at that time Allah's apostle had a midri, an iron comb or bar, with which he was rubbing his head. So when Allah's apostle saw him, he said to him, "If I had been sure that you were looking at me through the door, I would have poked your eye with this sharp iron bar." Allah's apostle added, "The asking for permission to enter has been enjoined so that one may not look unlawfully at what there is in the house without the permission of its people." Volume 9, Book 83, number 39, narrated by Abu Huraira. Abul Qasim said, "If any person peeps at you without your permission and you poke him with a stick and injure his eye, you will not be blamed." Volume 9, Book 83, number 40, narrated by Ash-Shabi. I heard Abu Juhayfa saying, I asked Ali replied, "By him who made the grain split, germinate, and created the soul, we have nothing except what is in the Quran and the ability, gift, of understanding Allah's book, which he may endow a man with, and we have what is written in this paper." I asked, "What is written in this paper?" He replied, "Al-Aql, the regulation of Diya, about the ransom of captives, and the judgment that a Muslim should not be killed in Qisas, equality in punishment, for killing a disbeliever. See Hadith num 283, Vol. 4. Volume 9, Book 83, number 41, narrated by Abu Huraira. 2 women from the tribe of Hudayl fought with each other, and one of them threw a stone at the other, causing her to have a miscarriage, and Allah's apostle gave his verdict that the killer of the fetus should give a male or female slave as a diya. Volume 9, Book 83, number 42, narrated by Hisham's father. Umar consulted the companions about the case of a woman's abortion caused by somebody else. Al-Mughira said, "The Prophet gave the verdict that a male or female slave should be given as a diya." Then Muhammad bin Maslama testified that he had witnessed the Prophet giving such a verdict. Volume 9, Book 83, number 43, narrated by Urwa. I heard Al-Mughira bin Shuba narrating that Umar had consulted them about the case of abortion, similarly as narrated in number 42. Volume 9, Book 83, number 44, narrated by Abu Huraira. Allah's apostle gave a verdict regarding an aborted fetus of a woman from Bani Liyan that the killer of the fetus should give a male or female slave as a diya, but the woman who was required to give the slave died, so Allah's apostle gave the verdict that her inheritance be given to her children and her husband and the diya be paid by her asaba. Volume 9, Book 83, number 45, narrated by Abu Huraira. 2 women from Hudayl fought with each other, and one of them hit the other with a stone that killed her and what was in her womb. The relatives of the killer and the relatives of the victim submitted their case to the Prophet, who judged that the diya for the fetus was a male or female slave, and the diya for the killed woman was to be paid by the asaba, near relatives of the killer. Volume 9, Book 83, number 46, narrated by Abdul Aziz Anas said, "When Allah's apostle arrived at Medina, Abu Talha took hold of my hand and brought me to Allah's apostle and said, 'O Allah's apostle, Anas is an intelligent boy, so let him serve you.' Anas added, 'So I served the Prophet at home and on journeys. By Allah, he never said to me for anything which I did, "Why have you done this like this?" or for anything which I did not do, "Why have you not done this like this?'" Volume 9, Book 83, number 47, narrated by Abu Huraira. Allah's apostle said, There is no diya for persons killed by animals, or for the one who has been killed accidentally by falling into a well, or for the one killed in a mine. And 1/5 of rikaz, treasures buried before the Islamic era, is to be given to the state. Volume 9, Book 83, Number 48, narrated by Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, "There is no diya for a person injured or killed by an animal, going about without somebody to control it, and similarly, there is no diya for the one who falls and dies in a well, and also the one who dies in a mine. As regards the arikaz, buried wealth, 1/5 thereof is for the state." Volume 9, Book 83, Number 49, narrated by Abdullah bin Amr. The Prophet said, "Whoever killed a muahid, a person who is granted the pledge of protection by the Muslims, shall not smell the fragrance of paradise, though its fragrance can be smelt at a distance of 40 years of traveling." Volume 9, Book 83, Number 50, narrated by Abu Juhayfa. I asked Ali, "Do you have anything divine literature besides what is in the Quran? Or, as Uyayna once said, apart from what the people have?" Ali said, "By him who made the grain split, germinate, and created the soul, we have nothing except what is in the Quran and the ability, gift, of understanding Allah's book, which he may endow a man with, and what is written in this sheet of paper." I asked, "What is on this paper?" He replied, "The legal regulations of diya, blood money, and the ransom for releasing of the captives, and the judgment that no Muslim should be killed in qisas, equality in punishment, for killing a kafir, disbeliever." Volume 9, Book 83, Number 51, narrated by Abu Sa'id. The Prophet said, "Do not prefer some prophets to others." Volume 9, Book 83, Number 52, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. A Jew whose face had been slapped by someone came to the Prophet and said, "O Muhammad, a man from your Ansari companions slapped me." The Prophet said, "Call him." They called him, and the Prophet asked him, "Why did you slap his face?" He said, "O Allah's apostle, while I was passing by the Jews, I heard him saying, 'By him who chose Moses above all the human beings.' I said protestingly, 'Even above Muhammad,' so I became furious and slapped him." The Prophet said, "Do not give me preference to other prophets, for the people will become unconscious on the day of resurrection, and I will be the first to gain conscious, and behold, I will find Moses holding one of the pillars of the throne of Allah. Then I will not know whether he has become conscious before me, or he has been exempted because of his unconsciousness at the mountain during his worldly life, which he received." Tricks in Islam, according to Prophet Narratives, Volume 9, Book 86, Number 85, narrated by Umar bin al-Khattab. The Prophet said, "O people, the reward of deeds depends upon the intentions, and every person will get the reward according to what he has intended. So whoever emigrated for Allah and his apostle, then his emigration was for Allah and his apostle, and whoever emigrated to take worldly benefit or for a woman to marry, then his emigration was for what he emigrated for." Volume 9, Book 86, Number 86, narrated by Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, "Allah does not accept prayer of any one of you if he does hadath, passes wind, till he performs the ablution anew." Volume 9, Book 86, Number 87, narrated by Anas, that Abu Bakr wrote for him zakat regulations which Allah's apostle had made compulsory, and wrote that one should neither collect various portions of the property nor divide the property into various portions in order to avoid paying zakat. Volume 9, Book 86, Number 88, narrated by Talha bin Ubaidullah. A Bedouin with unkempt hair came to Allah's apostle and said, "O Allah's apostle, tell me what Allah has enjoined on me as regards prayers." The Prophet said, "You have to offer perfectly the 5 compulsory prayers in a day and a night, 24 HRS, except if you want to perform some extra optional prayers." The Bedouin said, "Tell me what Allah has enjoined on me as regards fasting." The Prophet said, "You have to observe fast during the month of Ramadan except if you fast some extra optional fast." The Bedouin said, "Tell me what Allah has enjoined on me as regards zakat." The Prophet then told him the Islamic laws and regulations, whereupon the Bedouin said, "By him who has honored you, I will not perform any optional deeds of worship, and I will not leave anything of what Allah has enjoined on me." And Allah's apostle said, "He will be successful if he has told the truth, or he will enter paradise if he said the truth." And some people said, "The zakat for 120 camels is 2 hikaz, and if the zakat payer slaughters the camels intentionally, or gives them as a present, or plays some other trick in order to avoid the zakat, then there is no harm in it for him. Volume 9, Book 86, number 89, narrated by Abu Hurairah. Allah's apostle said, on the day of resurrection the khans, treasure or wealth of which zakat has not been paid, of any one of you will appear in the shape of a huge bald-headed poisonous male snake, and its owner will run away from it, but it will follow him and say, I am your khans. The Prophet added, by Allah, that snake will keep on following him until he stretches out his hand and let the snake swallow it. Allah's apostle added, if the owner of camels does not pay their zakat, then on the day of resurrection, those camels will come to him and will strike his face with their hooves. Some people said, concerning a man who has camels and is afraid that zakat will be due, so he sells those camels for similar camels or for sheep or cows or money one day before zakat becomes due in order to avoid payment of their zakat cunningly. He has not to pay anything. The same scholar said, if one pays zakat of his camels one day or 1 year prior to the end of the year, by the end of which zakat becomes due, his zakat will be valid. Volume 9, Book 86, number 90, narrated by Ibn Abbas. Sa'd bin Ubadah al-Ansari sought the verdict of Allah's apostle regarding a vow made by his mother who had died before fulfilling it. Allah's apostle said, fulfill it on her behalf. Some people said, if the number of camels reaches 20, then their owner has to pay 4 sheep as zakat, and if their owner gives them as a gift or sells them in order to escape the payment of zakat cunningly before the completion of a year, then he is not to pay anything, and if he slaughters them and then dies, then no zakat is to be taken from his property. Volume 9, Book 86, number 90, narrated by Abdullah Nafi. Narrated to me that Abdullah said that Allah's apostle forbade the shigar. I asked Nafi, what is the shigar? He said, it is to marry the daughter of a man and marry one's daughter to that man at the same time, without mar, in both cases, or to marry the sister of a man and marry one's own sister to that man without mar. Some people said, if one, by a trick, marries on the basis of shigar, the marriage is valid but its condition is illegal. The same scholar said regarding al-muta, the marriage is invalid and its condition is illegal. Some others said, the muta and the shigar are permissible but the condition is illegal. Volume 9, Book 86, number 91, narrated by Muhammad bin Ali. Ali was told that Ibn Abbas did not see any harm in the muta marriage. Ali said, Allah's apostle forbade the muta marriage on the day of the Battle of Khaybar, and he forbade the eating of donkey's meat. Some people said, if one, by a tricky way, marries temporarily, his marriage is illegal. Others said, the marriage is valid but its condition is illegal. Volume 9, Book 86, number 92, narrated by Abu Hurairah. Allah's apostle said, one should not prevent others from watering their animals with the surplus of his water in order to prevent them from benefiting by the surplus of grass. Volume 9, Book 86, number 93, narrated by Ibn Umar. Allah's apostle forbade the practice of anash. Volume 9, Book 86, number 94, narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. A man mentioned to the Prophet that he had always been cheated in bargains. The Prophet said, whenever you do bargains, say, no cheating. Volume 9, Book 86, number 95, narrated by Urwa, that he asked Aisha regarding the verse, if you fear that you shall not be able to deal justly with the orphan girls, marry other women of your choice. 4.3. Aisha said, it is about an orphan girl under the custody of her guardian, who being attracted by her wealth and beauty, wants to marry her with mar less than other women of her status. So such guardians were forbidden to marry them unless they treat them justly by giving them their full mar. Then the people sought the verdict of Allah's apostle for such cases, whereupon Allah revealed, they ask your instruction concerning women. 4.127. The sub-narrator then mentioned the hadith. Volume 9, Book 86, number 96, narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. The Prophet said, for every betrayer there will be a flag by which he will be recognized on the day of resurrection. Volume 9, Book 86, number 97, narrated by Salama. The Prophet said, I am only a human being and you people have disputes. Maybe someone amongst you can present his case in a more eloquent and convincing manner than the other, and I give my judgment in his favor according to what I hear. Beware, if ever I give by error somebody something of his brother's right, then he should not take it as I have only given him a piece of fire. See Hadith number 638, Vol 3, Volume 9, Book 86, number 98, narrated by Abu Hurairah. The Prophet said, A virgin should not be married till she is asked for her consent, and the matron should not be married till she is asked whether she agrees to marry or not. It was asked, O Allah's apostle, how will she, the virgin, express her consent? He said, by keeping silent. Some people said, if a virgin is not asked for her consent and she is not married, and then a man, by playing a trick, presents 2 false witnesses that he has married her with her consent, and the judge confirms his marriage as a true one, and the husband knows that the witnesses were false ones, then there is no harm for him to consummate his marriage with her, and the marriage is regarded as valid. Volume 9, Book 86, number 99, narrated by Al-Qasim. A woman from the offspring of Jafar was afraid lest her guardian marry her to somebody against her will. So she sent for 2 elderly men from the Ansar, Abdurrahman and Mujami, the 2 sons of Jariya, and they said to her, Don't be afraid, for Kanza bint Kadam was given by her father in marriage against her will. Then the Prophet cancelled that marriage. See Hadith, number 78. Volume 9, Book 86, number 100, narrated by Abu Huraira. Allah's apostle said, a lady slave should not be given in marriage until she is consulted, and a virgin should not be given in marriage until her permission is granted. The people said, how will she express her permission? The Prophet said, by keeping silent when asked her consent. Some people said, if a man by playing a trick presents 2 false witnesses before the judge to testify that he has married a matron with her consent, and the judge confirms his marriage and the husband is sure that he has never married her before, then such a marriage will be considered as a legal one and he may live with her as husband. Volume 9, Book 86, number 101, narrated by Aisha. Allah's apostle said, it is essential to have the consent of a virgin for the marriage. I said, a virgin feels shy. The Prophet said, her silence means her consent. Some people said, if a man falls in love with an orphan slave girl or a virgin and she refuses him, and then he makes a trick by bringing 2 false witnesses to testify that he has married her, and then she attains the age of puberty and agrees to marry him, and the judge accepts the false witness, and the husband knows that the witnesses were false ones, he may consummate his marriage. Volume 9, Book 86, number 102, narrated by Aisha. Allah's apostle used to like sweets, and also used to like honey, and whenever he finished the Asr prayer, he used to visit his wives and stay with them. Once he visited Hafsa and remained with her longer than the period he used to stay, so I inquired about it. It was said to me, a woman from her tribe gave her a leather skin containing honey as a present, and she gave some of it to Allah's apostle to drink. I said, by Allah, we will play a trick on him. So I mentioned the story to Sauda, the wife of the Prophet, and said to her, when he enters upon you, he will come near to you, whereupon you should say to him, O Allah's apostle, have you eaten magafir? He will say no. Then you say to him, what is this bad smell? And it would be very hard on Allah's apostle that a bad smell should be found on his body. He will say, Hafsa has given me a drink of honey. Then you should say to him, its bees must have sucked from the al-urfut, a foul-smelling flower. I too will tell him the same, and you, O Saifia, say the same. So when the Prophet entered upon Sauda, the following happened. Sauda said, by him except whom none has the right to be worshipped. I was about to say to him what you had told me to say while he was still at the gate, because of fear from you. But when Allah's apostle came near to me, I said to him, O Allah's apostle, have you eaten magafir? He replied, no. I said, what about this smell? He said, Hafsa has given me a drink of honey. I said, its bees must have sucked al-urfut. When he entered upon me, I told him the same as that, and when he entered upon Safiya, she too told him the same. So when he visited Hafsa again, she said to him, O Allah's apostle, shall I give you a drink of it, honey? He said, I have no desire for it. Sauda said, Subhan Allah, we have deprived him of it, honey. I said to her, be quiet. Volume 9, Book 86, number 103, narrated by Abdullah bin Amir bin Rabi'a. Umar bin al-Khattab left for Sham, and when he reached a place called Sarg, he came to know that there was an outbreak of an epidemic, of plague, in Sham. Then Abdurrahman bin Auf told him that Allah's apostle said, if you hear the news of an outbreak of an epidemic, plague, in a certain place, do not enter that place. And if the epidemic falls in a place while you are present in it, do not leave that place to escape from the epidemic. So, Umar returned from Sarg, Volume 9, Book 86, number 104, narrated by Amir bin Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas. That he heard Usama bin Zaid speaking to Sa'd, saying, Allah's apostle mentioned the plague and said, "It is a means of punishment with which some nations were punished, and some of it has remained, and it appears now and then. So whoever hears that there is an outbreak of plague in some land, he should not go to that land, and if the plague breaks out in the land where one is already present, one should not run away from that land, escaping from the plague." Volume 9, Book 86, number 105, narrated by Ibn Abbas. The Prophet said, "The one who takes back his gift is like a dog swallowing its own vomit, and we believers should not act according to this bad example." Volume 9, Book 86, number 106, narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. The Prophet has decreed that preemption is valid in all cases where the real estate concerned has not been divided, but if the boundaries are established and the ways are made, then there is no preemption. A man said, "Preemption is only for the neighbor," and then he makes invalid what he has confirmed. He said, if someone wants to buy a house and being afraid that the neighbor of the house may buy it through preemption, he buys 1 share out of 100 shares of the house and then buys the rest of the house, then the neighbor can only have the right of preemption for the first share, but not for the rest of the house, and the buyer may play such a trick in this case. Volume 9, Book 86, number 107, narrated by Amr bin Sharid. Al-Miswar bin Makrama came and put his hand on my shoulder, and I accompanied him to Saad. Abu Rafi said to Al-Miswar, "Won't you order this, that is Saad, to buy my house which is in my yard?" Saad said, "I will not offer more than 400 in installments over a fixed period." Abu Rafi said, "I was offered 500 cash, but I refused. Had I not heard the Prophet saying, 'A neighbor is more entitled to receive the care of his neighbor,' I would not have sold it to you." The narrator said to Sufyan, "Mamar did not say so." Sufyan said, "But he did say so to me." Some people said, if someone wants to sell a house and deprive somebody of the right of preemption, he has the right to play a trick to render the preemption invalid. And that is by giving the house to the buyer as a present, and marking its boundaries and giving it to him. The buyer then gives the seller 1,000 dirham as compensation, in which case the preemptor loses his right of preemption. Narrated Amr bin Sharid. Abu Rafi said that Sa'ad offered him 400 mithqal of gold for a house. Abu Rafi said, "If I had not heard Allah's apostle saying, 'A neighbor has more right to be taken care of by his neighbor,' then I would not have given it to you." Some people said, if one has bought a portion of a house and wants to cancel the right of preemption, he may give it as a present to his little son, and he will not be obliged to take an oath. Volume 9, Book 86, number 108. Narrated by Abu Humayd as-Sa'idi. Allah's apostle appointed a man called Ibn al-Lutabiyya to collect the zakat from Bani Sulaim's tribe. When he returned, the Prophet called him to account. He said to the Prophet, "This is your money, and this has been given to me as a gift." On that, Allah's apostle said, "Why didn't you stay in your father's and mother's house to see whether you will be given gifts or not if you are telling the truth?" Then the Prophet addressed us, and after praising and glorifying Allah, he said, "Amma Badu, I employ a man from among you to manage some affair of what Allah has put under my custody, and then he comes to me and says, 'This is your money, and this has been given to me as a gift.' Why didn't he stay in his father's and mother's home to see whether he will be given gifts or not? By Allah, not any one of you takes a thing unlawfully, but he will meet Allah on the day of resurrection, carrying that thing. I do not want to see any of you carrying a grunting camel or a mooing cow or a bleating sheep on meeting Allah." Then the Prophet raised both his hands till the whiteness of his armpits became visible, and he said, "O Allah, haven't I have conveyed your message?" The narrator added, "My eyes witnessed and my ears heard that hadith." Volume 9, Book 86, number 109, narrated by Abu Rafi. The Prophet said, "The neighbor has more right to be taken care of by his neighbor than anyone else." Some men said, if one wants to buy a house for 20,000 dirhams, then there is no harm to play a trick to deprive somebody of preemption by buying it just on paper with 20,000 dirhams, but paying to the seller only 9,999 dirhams in cash, and then agree with the seller to pay only 1 dinar in cash for the rest of the price, that is 10,001 dirhams. If the preemptor offers 20,000 dirhams for the house, he can buy it, otherwise he has no right to buy it. By this trick he got out of preemption. If the house proves to belong to somebody else other than the seller, the buyer should take back from the seller what he has paid, that is 9,999 dirhams and 1 dinar, because if the house proves to belong to somebody else, so the whole bargain, deal, is unlawful. If the buyer finds a defect in the house and it does not belong to somebody other than the seller, the buyer may return it and receive 20,000 dirhams, instead of 9,999 dirham plus 1 dinar, which he actually paid. Abu Abdullah said, "So that man allows some people the playing of tricks amongst the Muslims, although, the Prophet said, in dealing with Muslims one should not sell them sick, animals, or bad things or stolen things." Volume 9, Book 86, Number 110, narrated by Amr bin ash-Sharid Abu Rafi, sold a house to Saad bin Malik for 400 mithqal of gold and said, "If I had not heard the Prophet saying, 'The neighbor has more right to be taken care of by his neighbor than anyone else,' then I would not have sold it to you."